Hey everybody, welcome to P&M's Movie Criticisms. I'm Miss M.
And I'm Miss P.
Welcome back everybody, welcome back. Since it's so hot, there's a lot that's going on about it, so we want to make sure y'all are on the up and up, okay, and get to hot sauce. But before we get into that, hey, hey, I need you to hype me up. Come on.
Do I gotta?
Miss P?
Do I gotta?
Yes. It's our thing. It's what we do.
Okay. You don't need no hype. You better hype yourself up. You don't need no hype. You better hype yourself up. You don't need no hype. You better hype yourself up. Better hype yourself up. You don't need no hype. You better hype yourself
P&M movie criticisms. Ha, ha, ha. P&M movie criticisms. P&M movie criticisms. Got the hot sauce. P&M movie criticisms with the hot sauce. That's right. We talk about all the things that are hot. And for those of you who are like, are you going to be like rating? No, we already did that. Okay, we rated centers. We brought it through our hot sauce, P&M's movie criticism hot sauce chart. So if you're looking for that, click the links and find that. This is commentary right here. We're doing commentary, and we're going to be talking about all the things people are complaining about this movie, right, Miss P?
Right.
For example, how should we kick this off? I was surprised when I was like hearing about the lack of Latino representation. What about you, Miss P?
Well, I heard about it, but they had a hot tamales thing in there, but there was no actual like Hispanic representation. Like you had every other representation that could have been there, but just not the Hispanic representation. So that was one thing that I kept hearing about it. Everybody's mad
Yeah, they're mad. They're really, really mad. But realistically speaking, I don't really know why it was expected. I
because
mean,
they had a thing called hot tamales in the open, like when they were showing the town, but you never saw any Hispanic people there.
well, they were there. At least they even had the hot tamales. But but they're complaining because they don't have a lot of representation and everything. So they're really complaining about it. But my thing is, I'm gonna be real. Can I be real with you? And I know some people are gonna be like, but you know what? I'm only gonna ever be real with you because that's what you all deserve. The truth. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I'm not going to go into mince words. I'm just gonna say it like this, okay? I'm gonna just say it like this. Um, I don't understand everything that's happening right now. I honestly think it has to do with the politics of the time. For example, the Latino community saying, yo, black people, why aren't you riding with us? What are you doing? Well, I'm just going to say it like this, because what we want to talk about with sinners is that is there's a lot of history in here, a lot of accurate history. And as far as the politics are concerned, I think this has a place where sinners is released in a time where we have a lot of political disturbancy right now. And we're starting to see, I think for the first time, some rifts between the Latino and the African American community. And to be honest with you, I wasn't all too aware that it was there, but I guess I have. And then when I go back and look at my memories and everything, what about you, Miss P?
I didn't know anything was going on, to be honest. So I wouldn't be the right one to ask necessarily.
Okay, well, I feel the same way then. I'm like, oh, man. I mean, yeah, I remember walking into some Latino-owned stores and people were looking at me with side eyes like, you gotta get out of here, you little, I mean, yeah, but I didn't really attribute that to all Latinos and everything. So I'm like really surprised. But I do know that a lot of Latinos view themselves as white because I've traveled a lot and I have worked overseas a lot and I've traveled overseas a lot. And I've been in a lot of Hispanic communities and countries. And if they check on a box how they identify as white.
Some do, some don't, though.
Some do, some don't, but a lot do. More than you realize. Just like that guy, remember that time when you had the KKKK and all their rebranded names? Remember the Latino guy that stepped up as the head of a KKKK group and everybody was confused? Do you remember? got everybody was like, wait, why is this Latino dude the head of a KKK? And I was like, you know that a lot of them identify as white, right? Like they identify as like legit European white. You didn't know that? You didn't know? Well, I know. Yo, my Latino brothers and sisters, I got nothing but love for you, baby. I've got nothing but love for you, baby.
And that was Miss M singing, not Miss P.
Miss P, where does that song come from? I know you know.
Heartbeats, of course.
The Five Heartbeats. Yes. Hey, Robert Townsend, how you doing? So yeah, anyways, enough talk about that. I was like, man, I didn't know the Latino and African American community had such a rift. I'm so disappointed to hear this. I'm like, no, 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 no. But moving on, Miss P. Miss P, what's the next thing we should need to talk about? The politics and everything concerning centers.
The vampires and black music.
Vampires and black music. What about it, Miss P?
All right. So if you notice, the white people came to the black people and was like, hey, we play music too. Although it sounds country, Stack was getting down and Smoke was like, nah, there's a bunch of other places that you can go to have your music played. But here, we're not doing that because they were drawn to the music. And even if you look at it, when they were doing that, when they burnt down the juke joint, even if you look, you saw Cornbread sitting outside and you saw everybody else. How Remick saw it was the whole thing was burnt down to the ground, and they showed all the different cultures in that one place dancing. So it's the power that they held each, because there was Asian people in there was black people in there, and then there was, Stack's girlfriend was in there. But if you looked at it the way Remick saw it, it was black culture. They were drawn to the expression of what black culture was. When you think about black culture, who tries to do what we do the most? Not trying to sound racist, but who does that the most? Who tries to assimilate to be black? Almost every other, if black people are cultural legacies, basically, we start stuff and then people mimic it and then try to do whatever their little spin is on it. We're the original.
That's just being real. Solidarity. Please continue, Miss P.
Okay. So people are drawn to the power of not only the music, right? But he was like, I need you because your music can pull everybody together. They wanted Sammy that bad. You see what I'm saying? And if you remember, when Stat got turned into a vampire, he said, see, this is what's wrong with you. You don't got no vision. And he was about to fold for his brother and walk out there and get eaten too. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go to the left with that one. But yeah.
It's all good. So yeah, the music, the blues, music. The blues is what fuels us. It's what gives our soul sustenance. For those of you who don't know, if you listen to our podcast review of Sinners, then you know. But just in case, for those of y'all who haven't listened to it, blues music is often misunderstood as coming up during a type of slavery. But that's not true. This is when blues music first came up and first came when we're talking about after slavery, after Civil War, as you know, the Civil War 1861 to 1864, okay? It comes to an end. You no longer have slaves, you have freed men, you have freed women, okay? And you have the Reconstruction period, okay? And then you have the coming of the Jim Crow era, right? What blues talks about is the resilience, see, of surviving. It talks about the folklore of the hero, okay? And what you need to understand about this period of time is that this is when African Americans, then that wasn't even a term, you had freed men and freed women, because African Americans have been called so many different names, from Negroes to colored people to African American to black. There are many other names that describe us, even mulatto. Okay, even mulatto, and I'm not even going to get into the history of mulatto, okay? But even that name has changed. There are multiple definitions behind this one word. But to continue and stay on topic, you had after this freedom, you had these freedmen and freed women. One of the first things they wanted to do was learn how to read, and that was the issue. Being educated was an issue. Okay, oh, so now you think you freed, you think you want to be educated. Okay. So a lot of the time, so what happened was you had a lot of lynching. Okay, a lot of freed men and freed women were being lynched. Just be the wrong place at the wrong time. You're gonna get lynched. So because lynching was so prevalent in well into the 1900s, mind you, and all the way up until the civil and even up until the civil rights movement, and we still have lynching going on today too, mind you. But again, not going to get into that. However, it is in this time of fear of being lynched for any reason that blues came up, that blues emerged. And you had stories of heroes, folk heroes. You had stories of coming out and being able to be free. Okay, you had stories about juke houses or juke joints. You had stories about boll weevils. You had stories about sharecropping. You had, which we have in our movie.
But sharecropping was just more modern day slavery.
Pretty much. It was a type of debt bondage that they used to keep sharecroppers in, mainly those of African American lineage. And they would make them have to pay back more than what they really needed to. Just crazy amounts of interest, to just put it that way. And so from there you have this vigilante type of hero justice, and of course you have where African Americans at the time, freedmen and freed women, were being publicly tried, and they had all white juries and all white judges. There's only one thing I want to add here, and that is the point of history is to draw a correlation between what happened then and what happened now. And can you count how many similarities there are? That's what I'm telling you. You know how Miss M works. I give breadcrumbs, but I'm always going to give you enough to put the picture together. Okay, so this is blues. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about the blues is the bad man. We're talking about the new Negro. We're talking about the black man and the black woman who's the rough and tumble. We're talking about the type that openly went against white supremacy. This is what we're talking about, okay? So this is the blues. This is all about blues. Stack and Smoke, that's what they do. They're not interested in that modern day, that contemporary slavery of sharecropping. Sammy, he's not into it either, okay? No. Stack and Smoke and Sammy represent the bad man. They represent the rough and the tumble. They represent the new Negro mindset. Okay? And that's all I got to say about that for now. Anything you want to add on to that, Miss P?
It's just this. Don't ever miss the symbolism between the music, the guitar, and the singing. Even though Delta Slim was playing the piano and the harmonica and stuff like that, it was Sammy who garnered the attention first.
Yeah.
It was Sammy who saw it first. It was Sammy who said, I called y'all here. Sammy knew when he saw him, he called him. But anyway, it's just symbolic. That's all.
That's right. Now let's talk about what's juicy. Let's talk about the tea. So everybody's talking about Stack's choice for his girl and Smoke's choice for his girl, because Stack likes Mary. She is biracial. She can pass for white. I thought that was really good casting, played by Haley Steinfeld. I was like, when I looked at her, I was like, whoa, that's really good. She's clearly like black, but passes for white. I was like, this girl is every bit of black, but every bit of passing for white all day, every day, you know? And then Smoke, he has this very buxom chocolate woman, right? What did you say, Miss P, about Annie?
Busty for days. Can't help it.
You see her bust coming before you see her. That's what we say. I was like, she is a well endowed woman, very gifted. Go ahead, girl. We ain't mad at you. So everybody talking about that and what men want, especially what black men want in a woman. I like, man, why we always gotta bring the politics into everything? Can't we just enjoy a movie?
No.
Like what?
Because it's the duality. You have twins, duality. You have the yin and the yang. You have the hot and the cold. It's duality.
That's
You
it.
have the duality of the twins, right? You have one that's over here that's you have Smoke who is stoic. You know, he's very stoic. He doesn't smile. He's just very, this is what it is. And if you didn't know, Smoke's real name is Elijah and Stack's real name is Elias. So if you hear me say Elijah, I'm talking about Smoke. If you hear me say Elias, you hear me talk about Stack, right?
Yeah.
So the duality is you have one brother never smiles, never's happy really. He's always serious. Then you have Stack, who's easygoing, carefree. He was about to let the vampires in because he liked the music. He was getting down while Smoke was like, "Nah, you can't come in here. There's
Bye.
other places that you can go."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. That's it. Ladies, if y'all wondering what men want, and if you're wondering what men want overall, don't worry about it. You know, whatever it is that you got, there's gonna be multiple guys that like it, okay? No matter what they say. And if you're wondering about what black men like, well, it's the same thing. They like you to be you. You know, everybody has a preference. You know, light skinned and slim, light skinned and thick, light skinned and super thick, and light skinned and rotund.
BB.
Yeah, you got brown skin, you got dark skin, girl, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Don't buy into what people are saying. And if a guy walks up to you and he's like, oh, you're fat, he's trying to mess with your confidence. Okay, and even if you got some meat on your bones, that never stopped Miss M got like a whole slew of fans. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my Lord, help the baby.
You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I had gained weight. I've always had a nice figure, very nice figure. And then I gained weight and I was like, man, am I gonna slow up in my game? And then you know what? It sped up, ladies. It sped up when I gained weight. Can you believe it? I had to beat them off with a bat before and after gaining weight.
Oh Lord.
Don't worry about it. Make sure you get your exercise. 30 minutes a day. Get your heart rate up. 30 minutes at least 3 times a week. Don't be drinking all that sugar or eating it. Hey, girl, don't worry about it. Right, Miss B?
I mean, I'm on the plus side of things, so, but going back to what we were talking about before, there's no real harm in you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. It is what it is at the end of the day.
For real.
But here's the next point that I want to bring up is I've already brought it up once, but I'm going to come and circle back around. The vampires are white people who are attracted to the power of black music. You see what I'm saying? Sammy was the key. And I hate when people do this, but I'm going to do what I don't like. I know, cringe. You could think about it like this. The vampires are colonizers.
What?
They want to own. They wanted to get in there so they could overtake Sammy and use Sammy because it would be in a hive mind, right? So what is the real thing of the movie? By extension, white people want what can't have. So they'll go to what links to get to it. So the horror in itself is whiteness. Not that all the black people became vampires too, but the first three were all what? White. And they came up and they were like, yeah, I want what you got. Let me in. Just let me in. That's all you got to do. Let me in. I want to take over what you have. Let me in. Do you see?
Because, yeah, I see it. Because it's soul. That's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. I've got soul, and I'm super bad. I've got soul. It's about soul, right? It's about
Uh-huh.
that feeling and that music. You can't help but feel it. You can't help but feel that power. I've been beaten, I've been trodden. You lynching my people, lynching my wife, lynching my husband, lynching my children, hanging us, killing us left and right. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know about lynching. Not a lot of people know about this. This was a spectacle, okay? When blues music came up, When blues music was coming and they were talking about the folklore and the heroes, ladies and gentlemen, this was real type of hero stuff. The hero was built up because the hero, the colored people at the time, the freedmen and freedwomen, had to traverse and navigate through a world that was ripping at them and tearing at them left and right, saying, die, die, die. But no matter what, we thrive, we thrive, we thrive. We refuse to die. And we've got soul. That's why. And it is in our music. You hear it in our music. This is where blues came from. This is why blues is so powerful. Because whilst our people, our ancestors were dying, they were singing and denying. We will not die. We will learn how to read. We will be educated. You will not stop us. It's that soul that they have a problem with. It's that tenacity to keep going, to thrive. And that's what it's all about. Because music speaks to everybody. It doesn't matter the race, the religion, the creed. Music is international. It is universal. And that's about Sammy. Boy, can that boy sing. Oh, anybody will listen, let anybody open up their mouth and start singing, and if they can blow, what's the first thing you do? The first thing you do is listen. It's hard to get a person to listen to you. It's hard. But being able to sing a few notes and see how closely people will listen to you then. If you can sing, people will listen to just about anything you have to say. That is the power of music. That is the power of blues.
The next thing I want to point out is the sawmill.
Okay.
The sawmill. Not that I'm laughing because of that. It's just, oh, okay. The sawmill, when Elias and Elijah came, they said they were going to buy it. Stack was looking on the floor. He's like, what's that stain? The guy said, this is the old sawmill. We used it for a lot of different things. So not only was blood spilt there before, right, by the white supremacists, but then you had vampires that also exploited the people as well. So not only did you have a racist group trying to eliminate the black people, you had the vampires who were also white at the beginning and terrorized them as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so it's not the fact that the building is stained already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the building is stained, it was the KKK people did it first. Then the vampires also did it to them as well. So they were messed up on both ends. No matter what they did, how they did it, they were going to be doomed because the KKK people came back. The vampires, they came back at sunrise. The vampires came out at nighttime. So either way you look at it, they were screwed on both ends.
They really were. Talking about those stains, it reminded me of a time I was riding down, like, I believe it was Victory Drive in Savannah, Georgia. And I was thinking, wow, what a beautiful day. And those trees look amazing. And my father said to me, those trees are beautiful, but at one point in time, all those trees had bodies hanging from them. And then, just like that, I saw all these bodies hanging on all these beautiful trees. And I was like, oh my gosh, those trees left with that stain. And it's really up to us to know our history so we can stop. It's like what Miss P said. First, the KKK came and stained the place. Then the vampires came and stained the place. When will we stop staining things with blood? When? Are we not supposed to be civilized? Do we not live in what's called civilization? Know your history. Know it. Know that lynching, when blues came up, wasn't just, a body being hung. Know that it was Saturday night live theater, live entertainment. Know that there's a lynching about to happen. You got your wife, you got your children, and young children, okay? Young children, 4 years old, 3 years old, they were not exempt, okay? They came to the viewing too. They came to watch a freed man, a freed woman, slaves get beaten, beaten, beaten. And if you were a woman, other things happened to you. Then If you're a man, they beat you and then they cut off your phallus. And then after they cut off your phallus, they beat you some more, they strung you up in a tree, dropped you down, and if you're lucky, your neck broke. Then after you heard you're dead, they bring your body down, place it into a fire, let it get nice and hot, roast hellishly hot, and they let the body burn in it until there's nothing left but white charred bones. And then the crowd that's watching and eating their popcorn and drinking drinks, mind you, during the whole thing, they patiently wait for the fire to die down, to go out, and they patiently wait for them to cool everything down in the bones. And then guess what? Everybody who is watching walks up to the pile of bones to take home a souvenir of the freed man, the freed woman, and children walk up to the pile. Toddler, tweens, teens take a bone home to treasure. And the one that cut off the freed man's phallus, he takes it home and puts it in a jar and keeps it as a trophy. This is real history, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just educating you. You can read it anywhere. You have real historians, qualified, credible historians reading the books. It's out there. Just read it. I know that I got real. I got real. I got real. I got really real then, didn't I, Miss P?
Yes, you did, Miss M.
I just want you to be educated. I want you to understand the historical significance behind the movie Center. That's it. And that's all I got really else to say about this. Anything you want to say, Miss P?
Yes, the scars on Sammy's face, just like the bloodstains on the old sawmill, it was what he had to endure from the end to the beginning. The scars are the reminder of what he's been through, not only as he was a black boy in Mississippi, but the scars are there to remind him of never forget the vampires. Never forget that they're out there and that they're real.
That's right. They're out there. They're real.
And the church scene really quick. When he looks up, remember, he's this famous jazz musician at the end. And so you have to remember, he lived a very, very long life. So you have to think about all the things that he's gone through from leaving the church all the way till the fact that he was this famous jazz singer. But here's the thing, Stack offered him to let him live forever, right? So you have to think about it like this. He's like, nah, I'm good. I want to go out on my own terms. But he didn't have a shadow in the mirror. But I've said that before. He didn't have a shadow in the mirror. But see, here's the thing. His father was trying to very much so oppress him into church. Tell me what the verse says. Go ahead and read it. He shut the Bible and he was quoted the verse offhand just by memory. He quoted the verse. His father said, "Don't become a sinner." Get it? They use the name in the title, but don't become a sinner because he loves the blues. And so where did he go back to? He went back to where? His salvation. His salvation when he was younger was what? His dad in the church, right? But
Yeah.
the church was his salvation and the damnation because he said, give it up. Put the guitar down. And he couldn't do it. Then you jump clips, you jump scenes. Where's he at? In a nightclub, in his own nightclub, singing. And so everything that we have done has been what up until this point in the church. It's its own bubble. You have the people that played the blues, they were sinners, right? And they needed to be reformed, so to say, right? But he made the choice. I'm walking away from it. If this is damnation, then I love it, right? AKA sinners. But that's just my take.
Definitely, definitely. Um, the church, the role that the church plays, when he says he dropped the guitar, one thing I will say is blues music was demonized. But let's not be remiss and forget even jazz music. Jazz music too was demonized. And I will say not only was Mississippi the birthplace, but also Texas and also the Carolinas and Georgia. Let's just say the South, okay? But when you really trace back blues, that's where it goes. You think you catch Mississippi and you catch Tennessee and also New Orleans too. But anyways, with the music and the church for Sammy is not where he wants to go because he can't get rid of the guitar. He needs that guitar hit. Okay, that's how he resonates with himself. He's a teenager. You know, he can't be more than, I would say, 19 years old, Sammy. 18, 19. I would place him about 17 to 19 years old, Sammy. Oh, Sammy wants to be more. He wants to see more. He wants to do more. And he wants to go beyond the walls of his church. That's what it is. Okay? But, you know, like I said, blues music, jazz music was demonized. And I'm going to take it to a historical level where I'm reading in between the lines. One of the reasons I say that blues music and jazz music was demonized so much is because it really brought different people of walks of life together. It really did. If you really go back again, read your history, okay? I know we also have the Jim Crow era, but you would have kids to come in and dance together if they ever had a chance. If they were in the same room, you have some Mexican, you have Latinos dancing with some African, what would become African Americans. You would have white people dancing with the Latinos and the white people dancing with the colored people. It really, and that music brought the youth together. You know, it really did bring the youth together, and that was an issue because they didn't like that unity, that pro. And I don't know, we don't even have a word for it. It was, I guess you could say, pro unity because they just didn't like that togetherness. That's the power of music. I really hate it when I hear things like, oh, goodness, Miss P, you used a word before where another race takes an essential characteristic of another race.
Appropriation?
Yes, appropriation. Thank you. Now appropriation, the thing is our cultures are so intertwined that it's gonna happen. It's just going to happen. But do give credit where credit is due, okay? Because I hated when they did it to Bruno, that he was appropriating black music. I mean, have you seen Bruno? That's a black man to me. Bruno Mars is black. Hey, Bruno, how you doing? What you doing? And so, that's what I gotta say about it. But anyways, like we're all one. We just have different types of colors, different types of hair textures. That's all it is at the end of the day. There's nothing else to it. We're not different species, okay? Nothing. We're the same. Just different colors and textures. And also, can't we just watch a movie and enjoy it for once, people? It made me get on up here. It was time for me to eat, do some commentary about sinners. Here I am making another video. I should be eating my burger with bacon and cheese.
Ew.
Don't be saying ill to other people's food and other people's preferences. That's rude, Miss P. I
If you
love
would have just
pork,
said a burger, I would have been like, yes. But you said,
bacon.
bleh.
Miss P doesn't like bacon. Miss M does. To all the bacon lovers out there, what's up? What's up? Listen, that's all I gotta say. I have food to eat. You, Miss P?
I have to be at work at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It's always lovely having you. And if you're new here, come back. If you've joined us before, thank you for coming along to join us on this ride. Hey, I'm Miss M, and I'm about this piece.
And I'm Miss P. Bye.
See y'all later.